What's up, you guys? How are you doing? Today, I'm gonna be doing a video on Title Fight's guitar tone, every gear they use, amp, pedals, the specific guitars, and so I hope you like it. Okay, so it's my first time doing a video like this, specifically like kind of like a documentary, and so I'm gonna try to do it off top. I don't really have like a script. I have all the info that I'm gonna use, but for sure. So the first guitar tone that we're gonna be talking about is the Last Thing You Forget, and it included a bunch of songs that were also from some other EPs and a split they had back in '06, if I'm not mistaken. Jamie used a Gibson SG Standard Limited Edition for all of his songs before 2010, including the hidden B-side on the 7-inch, which is called Lucky. Jamie also used a Gibson Les Paul Custom, which is the one we all know, and he used it specifically for double tracking on the three main songs that dropped on the 7-inch EP. And on the other hand, we have Shane, which Shane used a Gibson Firebrand Les Paul. Okay, so for the amps and the pedals used in the compilation, Jamie used a Marshall MF350 for the Kingston EP and for the split EP with the Erection kits. He later switched to the also well-known JCM 800, but for the 7-inch, dropped in 2009. The only pedal that they used during this era was the TS9 from Ibanez, the Tube Screamer. We don't really know which amp Shane used on this era, but we can only think that they were using probably the same amp when recording the 7-inch, probably the JCM 800 again. Okay, so here's the Last Thing You Forget tone. Okay, so for most of these, I'm gonna be using the Les Paul Custom. This one's not Gibson though, so I'm not that fancy. The first tone I'm gonna show you is gonna be the one that they used for the earlier days, the ones that they used for the split and for the Kingston EP. And then those are my settings for the Tube Screamer. I'm gonna use the same setting for all of the tones today. For my settings here, I have a CLA3A, a compressor before the amp. And for the amp, I'm gonna use Amplitude, and here are my settings. And then here's gonna be the cabinet that I'm using. It's the 4x12 Brit. And the speakers, all of them are greenbacks. This is very important, okay? You need to make sure all of them are greenbacks. Okay, as you can see, I double tracked this, right? I'm gonna play it without the metronome, but this is very important. Every time you record a guitar, it's gonna sound better if you double track. Okay, so this tone is a little bit different. It has, well, the same compressor, but instead of the Satch BM that I was using on Amplitude, I'm using the following, the JCM 800, okay? Here are my settings. It's just the head of the amp, because I'm using the same exact cabinet over here. Okay, I forgot to say it, but I'm on the treble setting for the Les Paul, right? And then 6 to 7 volume for the pickup, and then the brightness is all the way up to tone. So yeah. Okay, next on the list we have Shed, which is their first studio album, right? On this album, they mainly used the JCM 800 again with 4x12 cabinets, specifically with greenback speakers, okay? This is really important to get that sound. They also used a Box AC15 TB, mostly for the song 27. I don't know which other songs they use it in, but on the Chet VHS, you can see that they're using that amp for that specific song. And then for the guitar feedback that you can hear throughout the album, they used a JCM Silver Jubilee, okay? You can see a clip of it in the VHS also. And then of course the only pedal that they used was the TS9 again. Also, the guitars that they used on Shed, it was again Jamie with the Gibson Les Paul Custom only. Then Shane used the Firebrand Les Paul. For this, I'm also using the JCM 800. Here are my settings. Don't mind the tube screamer. I'm not using this one. I'm only using the TS9. And then on amplitude, I'm just using the cabinet again with the greenbacks. Make sure you have that. Okay, next on the list we have Floral Green, which is their second studio album. For this, of course, Jamie used the same guitar, the Les Paul Custom, and Shane actually switched guitars over to a Les Paul Standard, okay? Jamie used a JCM 800 again with 4x12 greenback speakers, and then Shane used a top hat and plexador, maybe the T/35KR model. Unfortunately, there's not that much info on Shane's amp during this era, but I'll show a clip where you can kind of see it. Okay, now the important part, the pedals. We have so much here, okay? So look, Jamie used a CE5 chorus, right? A chorus ensemble, which was mainly used on In Between. And then another pedal he used was the Holy Grail Nano Reverb. Then we have a very predominant pedal, the Huge Electronics Aquapus MK2 analog delay, long ass name. The Aquapus delay was used for feedback mostly, for example in a lead guitar like a Ritual in the outro. Jamie also used a Cebex Fuzz Factory, which I think was used only on the lead for Leaf, if I'm not mistaken. And now we have Shane. Shane used a Green Russian Big Muff, which I think was used on a lead part for the song Frown. Shane also had a chorus pedal. He had the CE2, And then last, he also had the Holy Grail Nano Reverb. I think that the main difference between these two albums is that they had to double track the guitars, add multiple layers, which made it sound bigger and fuller. And I think the producer Will Jipp managed to do so very good. This one, it's literally all the same plugins. The main difference is just the settings over here. They are a little different. Bring up the treble, the middle, the cabinet, the same, literally. And just keep in mind that the guitar, you have to have a mix of the rhythm and treble pickups, okay? And then keep the volume at 4 and 5 on both of the pickups, okay? Also for this one, I'm not using the tube screamer, okay? I'm gonna do other examples with the delay pedal. I have the same one. And then I also have a Oceans 11, I think that's the name of the reverb that I have. I have that pedal and I'm gonna put it in the hall setting, okay? So the first one's gonna be raw and then I'm gonna be adding the effects. I'll let you know. Again, keep in mind that if you double track, it's gonna sound 100% better. Okay, now we skip to Spring Songs, the EP that they dropped on 2013. For this EP, I don't really have that much info I can give you guys, but all I'm gonna say is that the sound is very similar to Floral Green, but I would say the mix on the overall song is more spacey. It definitely has more reverb. Okay, so now we switch to Hyperview, which is their last full album that they released in 2015. For the guitars, Jamie, of course, Les Paul Custom. And then on this album, Shane actually used a Fender Classic Player Jaguar Special. You can notice this by seeing that some songs on the album use this tremolo bar. As far as the amps, they used, of course, the JCM 800 again. And Shane switched over to a JC 120, which is very known as a shoegaze type of amp. Of course, you could use it for anything, but I've seen it a lot on like shoegaze rigs and stuff. So okay, now the pedals. Jamie used the same pedals as Floral Green, but he added two more to his collection: Boss PH3, the phase shifter, and also he switched his reverb to a Cathedral stereo reverb from Electro Harmonics. It's obvious that this album uses the chorus and reverb pedal a lot, and I think that's what makes the big difference from Floral Green to Hyperview. The guitars were also not as distorted, I would say, as the past albums, so that really makes a big difference. And then lastly, Shane, he used the same pedals from Floral Green to Hyperview. And I'm gonna be using this J Massius Jazzmaster, and I'm gonna be running it under a JCM 800 which shouldn't be the case. I should be using a JC120 emulation, but I think this is far more accurate for what I have, you know? These are the settings for my JCM 800, and then the cabinet, again, is the same. And the chorus that I'm gonna be using is the Super Chorus. I'll show you the settings here in a picture. And then I also have the reverb on, and that's it. And yeah, I think that's it. I just want to say thank you for watching the video, and one last thing I want to say is that this band has helped me grow so much in my musical career, in my guitar playing skills, and also just my life overall. Their messages that they have in their lyrics, it's so emotional, and I don't think that anything is gonna top Title Fight, as at least on my music taste that I have right now. So I don't think I'm gonna ever stop listening to them. So yeah, and legendary guitar tones, of course. So thank you so much for watching, and hope you guys have a good day. Also, one last thing. So on YouTube, we have now this function where you can hype videos up, which can put it further on other people's recommendations and just make the video grow further than you would imagine. So if you can click that, it literally takes less than a second. Go ahead and do it, and you can help me out, okay? And then another thing I want to say is that if you're a bass player or a drum player, or you have any other tips that you want to add to the Title Fight sound, please leave a comment. I want to know as much as possible. I have a bass. I'm not a bass player, but I don't really know how to dial in the tone for like the Title Fight sound. So if you can help me with that or help others, definitely leave it in the comments. All right, thank you so much.